Welcome to the Explainer. Imagine this, you're just going about your day, everything is totally normal, the sun is shining, and then suddenly, your phone buzzes.
You glance down, and it's a text message from your boss. Just 4 simple words. Can we talk tomorrow? Now, think about what happens in your body the exact second you read that text. Your heart starts beating a little faster, right? Your stomach completely drops, your breathing gets shallow, and suddenly you literally cannot focus on a single thing you were just doing.
Why does that happen? Well, it's because your brain absolutely hates a vacuum. So your mind instantly races to fill that void of missing information. It starts screaming at you. Maybe you're fired, or maybe he made some catastrophic mistake on that last project. Maybe the whole company's going under. But here's the absolute wildest part of this whole scenario. Absolutely nothing has actually happened yet. You are sitting there suffering intensely, having a very real physical reaction to an event that doesn't even exist.
So let's dive right into this mystery. Why does not knowing actually feel so much worse than bad news? Why does our brain treat the simple absence of information as a literal physical life or death threat? Well, the answer to why you feel so much anxiety over a simple unread text message doesn't actually lie in your modern workplace. It is deeply embedded in your biological history.
Section 1. Your ancient survival brain.
To really wrap our heads around modern anxiety, we have to travel back about 50,000 years and look at the world your brain was actually designed for. Our ancestors didn't have cities or police or the internet. Back then, a sudden rustling in a bush or fresh footprints near the camp, that could literally mean death. Any unknown situation was treated as a potential predator. See, our ancestors didn't survive because they were carefree and optimistic. They survived because they assumed uncertainty was incredibly dangerous. The overly cautious humans, the ones who completely panicked at the unknown, well, they lived longer, and they passed that exact survival software right down to us. So today, your boss's email isn't a hungry predator hiding in the dark, but your ancient brain, it responds with the exact same survival panic.
Section 2. The science of missing information.
Let's move past the history for a second and look at how this ancient software is running in your head right now. Neuroscientists have figured out that the human brain basically operates as a massive prediction machine. It's constantly scanning your environment, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Why? Because successfully predicting the future creates safety and it saves a ton of precious energy. You have to remember, for evolution, survival is infinitely greater than happiness. Because keeping you alive mattered way more than keeping you calm, whenever information is missing, your brain deliberately fabricates these terrible negative stories. Assuming there was danger, even if you were wrong, was just far safer than ignoring a real threat and getting eaten. Your imagination simply wasn't designed to comfort you. It evolved to protect you by showing you the absolute worst-case scenario.
Okay, so here is the actual biological sequence of what happens right under your skin. Step 1. Prediction fails. You just don't know the outcome. Step 2. Your nervous system immediately goes on high alert. Step 3. Stress hormones like cortisol absolutely flood your bloodstream. And finally, step 4, your body prepares for physical danger. Your muscles tense up, you're literally bracing for a physical attack, all because you're waiting for an email reply. It's crazy, right? At least bad news ends the uncertainty. Waiting just keeps your body endlessly fighting a ghost.
Section 3. Modern life and endless uncertainty.
And this is exactly where human evolution hits a massive roadblock. For our ancestors, uncertainty was just an occasional spike of terror. But today, we face wild economic changes, a relentless breaking news cycle, totally unpredictable social media algorithms, dating apps, fierce career competition, and the rapid rise of AI. The list goes on and on. Every single day brings an absolute avalanche of new variables. We are asking our prehistoric nervous systems to process a volume of uncertainty they were simply never built to handle. Honestly, it's a miracle we aren't all completely exhausted all the time. Actually, scratch that, we kind of are.
But here is the really cruel irony of the age we live in. Endless information does not equal certainty. We endlessly refresh our emails, we scroll our feeds, we check our notifications over and over, desperately looking for some reassurance that we're safe. But instead of giving us certainty, technology just feeds us more and more variables. We are absolutely drowning in information, yet we're completely starving for true predictability.
Section 4. How uncertainty controls your decisions.
This deep biological fear of the unknown doesn't just make us anxious while we're sitting on the couch. It fundamentally alters the entire trajectory of our lives. It quietly dictates what we do and, maybe more importantly, what we don't do. The cost of avoiding the unknown is just immense. Think about it. People frequently choose to stay in deeply unhappy jobs or toxic relationships for years. But why? Because the brain literally calculates that the unknown is scarier than familiar pain. We never start that business, or we never move to that new city. And it's not because you lack talent or drive, it's because your brain completely misinterprets the uncertainty of trying something new as a physical risk to your actual life. We routinely choose guaranteed misery over the potential for growth just so we can feel safe.
Section 5. Rewiring your survival code.
Now, if you're feeling a little targeted right now, don't worry. This is the really empowering part of this explainer. You are not doomed to live trapped by your ancient biology. Your brain is incredibly plastic. The psychological key to updating your nervous system's outdated software is learning through experience. Every single time you consciously choose to step into an uncertain situation, whether that's a difficult conversation, a brand new project, or even a blind date, and you survive, you are actively rewriting millions of years of evolutionary programming. You're basically teaching your primitive brain, hey, I've handled unknown situations before, and guess what? I didn't die.
So, how do we actually put this into practice? First, take slow breaths. This physically signals to your nervous system that you aren't currently being chased by a predator. Second, focus only on today's actions. Shrink your timeline down so you aren't trying to predict 5 years into the future. Third, consciously catch yourself when you start fabricating those disaster stories without any hard evidence. And finally, you just have to accept that total certainty is an illusion. It is completely impossible to achieve in modern life, so we have to stop fighting for it.
There's a great quote that sums this up. Confidence isn't knowing everything. Confidence is trusting yourself even when you don't. That completely flips the script, doesn't it? True resilience isn't about perfectly predicting the future so you never have to feel scared. It's about building that deep internal trust that no matter what the unknown throws at you, you have the capacity to figure it out when you get there.
And all of this builds to a massive perspective shift. The unknown once meant absolute danger. It literally meant predators and starvation. But in our modern world, its meaning has completely changed. Today, the unknown means possibility. Think about it for a second. Every single great invention, every deep, beautiful relationship, every massive adventure or dream ever realized in human history, literally none of them started with a perfect guarantee. They all began with someone feeling the exact same fear you feel and stepping out into the vast unknown anyway.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty profound question to think about. Will you let your ancient brain continue to fear the unknown, or will you courageously step into it to find exactly what your modern life needs? The next time your heart races over an ambiguous text message, just take a deep breath. You aren't predicting a catastrophic future. You are just replaying an ancient past. Walk into the uncertainty, because that is exactly where your real life is waiting to be lived. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.